ॐ वाङ् मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्मयेधि वेदस्य आणीस्थः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासि अनेनाधीतेनाहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मावतु तद्भक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु भक्तारमवतु भक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ। Om. May my speech be accorded with the mind. May my mind be accorded with the speech. O self-effulgent one Brahman, reveal thyself to me. May you both, speech and mind, be the carriers of the highest truth to me. May not all that I have heard depart from me. May I be able to join day and night through this study. I shall utter what is verbally true. I shall utter what is mentally true. May that Brahman protect me. May that Brahman protect the teacher. May that protect me. May that protect the teacher. Om. Peace, peace, peace be unto you all. Good morning. We often come across a very similar question from different persons. The question is, I consider myself sufficiently sincere. I am working hard. I know, and I have that much confidence that I can do well in the intellectual field. Yet, in reality, I see that my colleagues are getting promotion, getting incentive, and I cannot get that much success in life, although I have all required quality, I think. This is one type of question. Another type of question we often come across, that is, Swami, we are sincere, performing our spiritual practice regularly. But you see, we cannot develop in our spiritual life. We cannot experience or we cannot feel that we are progressing in our spiritual life. But we are sincere and we are performing our spiritual practice regularly. These two types of questions are almost similar. There is another type of questions. And these questions are from the householder. You know, The life of a monk is patterned and organized in a completely different way. But I am giving this lecture in front of the householder. So I have to address their problem, not the monastic problem. So this type of question is, I want to become the director of a company, or rather I want success in my life. I want to get promotion in my workplace, or rather I would like to become a very good sportsman, a musician, a writer, a poet, and I would like to attune my whole life to the pursuit of this goal. So I want all these things. At the same time, I want to be a spiritual person. I cannot avoid my spiritual life. So in one hand, I need the worldly success. On the other hand, I need the spiritual success also. And in most of the time, this conflict we face, actually it is two mutually incompatible goals. Owing to this conflict of aims, one is unable to intensify one's effort in either direction. It is the conflict between the worldly success and the spiritual life. This is also another very difficult problem we face in our life. So there are three problems. Number one, we think we are capable, we are quite competent. At the same time, in reality, we are not getting the expectable success. Second thing is, I am giving effort in my spiritual life, but I cannot see my progress. The third thing is that I want to become a successful person in worldly life. At the same time, I want to become successful in spiritual life. So the conflict between worldly life and spiritual life. I would categorize all these three types of problems in one category. These are all similar type of problems. Let us analyze it. In any venture of our life, the goal we aim may be immediately attainable, or maybe to attain our goal, we would take whole of our life. In either case, as long as the goal remain unrealized, We have to give our whole life to it. It is one of the most important lessons we learn from the lives of great men. Unless we dedicate our life to a particular goal, unless we consecrate our life to a particular goal, we cannot achieve that goal. Take the case of Michael Faraday, the scientist, Thomas Edison, the inventor, Renold, the painter, Rodin, the sculptor, Albert Schweitzer, the medical missionary, to the Francis Assisi, the spiritual personality. The life of every one of them was a total consecration of his chosen goal. We have to first of all consider whether the goal we have chosen is the one of our hearts really aspire for, and whether it is worth all the sacrifice that it demands. So for this, to achieve any goal in worldly life, we have to dedicate our life fully. In Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna advises Arjuna this: how should we pursue? How should we dedicate our life, offer our life, consecrate our life to achieve a goal? He says, Vyavasayatmika buddhi rekeho kurunandana bahushaka hyananchascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. Very famous verse. He said, the intellect of a persevering aspirant. I would like to highlight persevering aspirant. Persevering and aspirant is one-pointed. So, to achieve our goal, we must be one-pointed. And how this one-pointedness will come? By perseverance and aspiration. So, who is trying to achieve the goal, he or she must be one-pointed, and this one-pointedness will come by perseverance and aspiration. Whereas the intellect of unpersevering person is many-branched. They are not one-pointed. So those intellect are unpersevering, their mind is many-branched and aimless. So they are not one-pointed. So perseverance and aspiration, these two important things are required to become one-pointed. And if we are not one-pointed to our goal, we cannot achieve our goal. Sri Krishna advises Arjuna this particular thing. So if we want to achieve our goal, and we have learned from these great people of the world that they dedicated their life, consecrated their life to achieve one single goal. If This total dedication is necessary for all worthwhile endeavors in secular life. It is all the more necessary in spiritual life. What is the way out? All people may not have an acute awareness of the contradiction of their lives. Many people are not aware. They are happy with their normal, so-called secured life. They are not aware. They are happy with their present life. And many of those who have it usually attributed them as an external cause or obstacles. I referred 3 types of problems in the beginning of this lecture. So those who are suffering from any one of these problems, always they blame others. Because of my colleagues, because of my manager, because of others, we cannot do it. So always they blame some external causes and obstacles. But the real cause is internal. Take it from me. The real cause is internal. You cannot change. Innumerable times I referred this thumb rule. Please remember it. Never and ever you can control anybody or anything outside in the external world. You can control yourself and overcome the problem. So by blaming others for our problem, we cannot solve our problem. We have to find our internal solution. And the best solution or the best cause of all these 3 types of problems is self-alienation. Self-alienation is the cause of all these 3 types of problems. Self-alienation means the estrangement of one part of the soul from the other part. We have I consciousness. And this I consciousness in Indian philosophy is called ego, capital ego. Ahamkara. In Sanskrit, it is called ahamkara. So this ahamkara, this I consciousness, it is inborn. We cannot eliminate this I consciousness ego unless we will attain Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So this I consciousness always will be there. It is not problematic. The problematic part is that when a part of this I consciousness is connected with our senses, with our mind, and then it connects or directs our senses to the external world. that is called, this part which is disconnected from our central I consciousness and is connected with mind and senses, that part is called egotism or egoism. So, in the most people, the ego, the part of the ego is cut off from its own foundation, the inmost self, I consciousness, which is called Pratyagatman. In Sanskrit, it is called Pratyagatman, the center of our consciousness. That is called Pratyagatman. So it is cut off from the foundation, the inmost self or Pratyagatman, or from the universal life. It is not external circumstances or other people that are preventing us from having one-pointed dedication to our chosen ideal, but divisions in the soul. So, nothing external is disturbing us when we are internally disconnected from the center of our consciousness. A part of ego is disconnected from the foundation of our consciousness, the I consciousness, and it is connected with the senses. Then we are alienated from our center of consciousness. That is the problem of one-pointedness. We cannot focus when we are disconnected from the core of our self. Official responsibilities, unfavorable living conditions, or unsympathetic relatives may cause temporary distractions, but these external factors will not deflect us from the main quest of the inner life integration. So, integration will not be affected by all these external complications. Self-alienation is a form of spiritual loss, and it affects all parts of our soul, especially three major areas. If we are self-alienated, it affects our feeling, it affects our will, and it affects our reason. If we are self-alienated, then we cannot exercise our will properly, we cannot exercise our feeling properly, and our reason will be clouded. Sri Ramakrishna has described this loss as the theft of the sanctum of heart. In Bengali, bhaber ghare churi, theft in the sanctum of heart. Patanjali pointed this. Patanjali said, stealing the memory from mind in his verse number 11 in the first canto, Patanjali says, it is called Sang-pramosha. Sang-pramosha means stealing the object of memory, your experience, from your mind. And that is called memory. When you lose your memory, the object of experience, that is called Sang-pramosha or theft. Stealing the object of experience from your mind. Patanjali calls it Sang Pramosha. Actually, by theft, Sri Ramakrishna meant not mere absent-mindedness, but something deeper. The cream, the essence of human feeling is love. And the heart is the sanctum of love. At the altar of our heart, this love, our love, transformed into a spark. And that spark, that flame of aspiration, which is called Vakulata. And Sri Ramakrishna, this Vakulata is to be directed to the higher goal. We have the room of feeling is in the heart. We have to exercise how this feeling is directed to a particular goal. What is the driving force? The driving force is love. If you do not love your goal, you cannot succeed. So you have to love your goal. So love is not mere feeling. It is way deeper. So love becomes aspiration in our heart, because heart is the sanctum. So when love becomes aspiration, then by will we should direct it towards the higher goal. When this direction will be the lower, that is called the theft in the inner heart. So that is called the theft in the sanctum of the heart. It is the diversion of aspiration to lower ideals and the fulfillment of worldly desire that Sri Ramakrishna referred as inner theft. When it happens, no amount of meditation or japa will produce spiritual awakening. So this is the mechanism. What is that? Alienation is the cause. We are disconnected from our center of spirituality, the I consciousness. That is the cause of our problem. Secondly, we should direct our love towards the higher direction. And this love in the heart, the sanctum, it is not spiritual heart. Please remember, these are not spiritual heart. The room of feeling, that is called the sanctum, the spiritual heart. It is the room of feeling, our deeper core feeling, the love, where love generates. That is the spiritual heart. That is the sanctum. So, when our love becomes aspiration in the core of our sanctum, and will directs it towards the higher goal, that is the ideal state. When that direction goes downward to the worldly things, Sri Ramakrishna calls it theft in the sanctum of heart. And he said, if there is theft in the sanctum of heart, all effort will be unfruitful. ভাবের ঘরে চুরি থাকলে কিছুই হবে না. If there is theft in the sanctum of heart, all effort will be unfruitful. So this is the problem. Then how to solve this problem? In our spiritual life and in worldly life. How to solve this problem? So if alienation, self-alienation is the problem, then we have to de-alienate it. We have to integrate it. And how should we integrate or de-alienate our ego? The first step is to detect and understand the self-alienation process through meditation and keep a watch on the process at all other times of the day. The first step is try to understand this alienation, awareness. You must be aware of the system of alienation. Yes, this point I am alienating. Watch in your mind's eye the whole process of alienation. Be aware of the process of alienation. That is the first step, and be aware whole day. This is nothing but exercise. If you practice it, you will be watchful. You will be alert. That is the first step. We must be constantly aware of the working of our ego, how it separates itself from the foundational reality and operates independently with the senses. So the function is, a part of our ego is separated and then it is connected with the senses and operates in the worldly way. So this is the problem. We must aware of it. Every point of time we can check that yes, now I am alienating. The part of my ego is alienating and it is connecting with my senses. So you must be self-aware. That is the first step. So this constant inward alertness is described as guarding the heart in Christianity. In Christianity, we find in Philokalia that the guarding of heart, and this is the guarding of heart, we must be aware. In Buddhism also, we find this kind of discipline. In the eighth path, noble path, in the eighth noble path, we find the Sammak Smriti, that is the fixing the memory, Sammak Smriti, which later developed into specialized technique, which is called Sampragyanya or Vipassana. So Vipassana and Sampragyana afterwards developed from this Samyak Smriti, and this is nothing but guarding the heart. So we must be aware when we are alienated. In Vedantic process, it is inward alertness, and this inward alertness can be achieved by discrimination. Vedanta emphasized it discrimination, whereas Buddhism emphasized in Sampragyana or Vipassana, the meditation technique, or guarding the heart. Christianity calls it guarding the heart for this awareness. Vedanta calls it discrimination. Viveka is generally described as discrimination between real and unreal, our intellect. Intellect discriminates. So in intellect, it is the discrimination between real and unreal. But when this is done by unawakened ego, it often becomes a form of spiritual romance or on the several types of self-deception. That is why we find a person who is always talking about unreality of this world, who always talks of Maya, but at the same time, that particular person is greedy, expresses hatred and other passions. It is because of unawakened ego. So we have to awaken ego. In our last talk, last Sunday, I mentioned 3 types of awakening. The awakening of ideal, awakening of ego, and spiritual awakening. This awakening, 3 steps of awakening takes place one after another. So this is ego awakening. And how we can awaken our ego? We would be alert, aware of the function of ego. When the ego is alienated from our self-centered spiritual consciousness, and how it is connected with the senses. So we should be alert. So we must be alert the function of our mind. Otherwise, we can read so many things, we can discuss so many things like Maya and unreality of the world, but basically, as a person, we will remain greedy. We express our hatred, jealousy, and anger, and all other basic passions. A beginner in spiritual life should exercise his faculty to discrimination, primarily to understand the process of self-alienation and reduce his egoism and selfishness. The kind of introspective discrimination will lead to ego awakening. And the awakened ego will be able to discriminate correctly between real and unreal. Introspective discrimination should be supported by integral view of life. So the first step is self-awareness, awakening of ego. And awakening of ego is nothing but some kind of awareness. You would be aware the function of your mind. That is the awakening of ego. The second thing is that you must be integrated with the collective life or virata, because you cannot sit in a cave and spend your life. If we have to come to the world, we have to interact with the society, with the larger life, with the world. So, we have to understand how should we connect ourselves with the world, with the society. This is the second step after ego awakening. There are two ways we can look at the world. One is called analytic or atomistic way, and the other is called synthetic or integral way. So mere self-awakening is not do the right job. We must be integrated. Awakened self must be integrated with the external world. So there are two ways of looking at the world I have already mentioned. One is analytic way and the other is synthetic or integrated way. The analytic view of life is seen as a vast stream of countless events and countless things going on. And I am also one special part of it. So everything in this world is like a stream is going on. And I am also the part of that. This is the analytic way of looking at the world. The self is only among these type, and consciousness is a rare and incidental part of this existence. According to this view, human effort should be primarily directed to controlling the nature, because everything is the part of nature. I am also the part of nature. So in this view, we try to control the nature. In Indian philosophy, Vaisheshika, Nayayika, Sankhya, all these types of philosophy, they actually do with this kind of view. And obviously, the Western scientists, they work with this objective world, the nature. So nature, I am also part of the nature. I have already mentioned in my last lecture is that there are the same thing, two ways of looking the whole creation. One, the nature, I am the body and I have a self. The second thing, body means the world. I am, the world is the main, and my self is among the world, is one of the event or one of the things in this world. The other way of looking at this is that I am the spirit and spirit has a body. So mainly I am the spirit. So I am the spirit and this is the world. So that is another way of looking at it. The second way of looking at this, the synthetic way, is one single organism with all its members projected, the sustained by Supreme Self. So one self, one thing is projecting everything. So one thing is connected with everything. That is the other way of looking at the world. One is everything in the world and I am also the part of this world. And other is from one everything came out And that one, I am that one. That is the another way of looking at it. So Vedanta, obviously you have understood that Vedanta, the second type, that Vedanta concept, Vedanta accepted the second way of looking to the life. So consciousness is the fundamental reality. All problems are understood in their relation to one's own self, and their solution are sought primarily through the transformation of this consciousness. What I have already mentioned, that everything to my world, everything is connected with my consciousness. And to solve the problem, I have to first go to my within. Vedanta suggested this kind of solution of the problem. This view obviously held by Vedanta, and it is the basis of Upanishad. This is the view that can help us in ending self-alienation and reintegration. However, mere intellectual acceptance of this integral view is not enough. It must be lived. We must experience this kind of integration. So, the view is that all problems of our life is connected with this self. And if we can transform center of ourself, all problem will be solved. Don't go outside to solve the problem. The problem is in outside, not in outside. The real problem is within. So go within and try to solve problem from there. That is the Vedantic approach. And everything is connected with that. When this happens, objects, person, events, and experiences acquire a new meaning as parts of the grand scheme of cosmic evolution. So then a person will have a great meaning of life. This meaninglessness, we cannot find any meaning of this. The meaninglessness comes from there. So when we are connected with the larger life, in Sanskrit this is called Virata. When we can connect ourselves with this Virata, we will have a special meaning of life. We can understand that. It is the self that gives meaning to everything. Anything that cannot be integrated with the self becomes meaningless. Love is not mere emotion. It is self-to-self contact. A married person may be faithful to his wife, but if he is unable to integrate herself into his, marriage will lose its ultimate meaning for him. I may be faithful, one person may be faithful to his wife, but if that is not connected with the self, then everything will be meaningless. That's why in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Maitreyi said, it is said that the love between husband and wife is connection between the self with the self. It is not the body. Again, work is not mere activity. It is the expression of soul's creativity. So see, it is connected with soul. Everything is connected with within. Our love is connected with within. Every work is soul's creativity. It is connected with within. A person may do his work sincerely, but it is not integrated into his self. It will appear meaningless to him. For a person whose inner life is well integrated, everything from the mighty sun to the lowly moons, from the Vedas to the newspaper, from meditation to the sweeping a floor, every person he meets, every experience, including sorrow, hardship, and humiliation, has a certain ultimate meaning in his life. He cannot do anything unless its meaning is clear to him. That is, unless he succeeds in integrating it into his own self, everything is meaningless to him. For him, his room or house is not a mere dwelling place, but the external representation of his mind. The books that he owns are not merely source of information, but the externalized records of his own experience. The people whom he loves become images of his own self. There is nothing superficial or casual about him, as his whole life is anchored in the innermost self. So everything is connected with the inner life. So everything is the projection of our inner life, the center of our consciousness. In this way, everything is connected. The whole universe is connected with us. Then we can change. You see, in a very normal, casual way, we can understand that. If there is a one controlling point and everything is connected with that, if we change the controlling point, everything will be changed. Exactly in the same way, if everything is connected from this source, our center of consciousness, then if we can change our center of consciousness, everything will be changed. We cannot change anybody outside. If somebody is yelling on me, if somebody is blaming on me, if somebody is criticizing me, we cannot change anybody outside. But if I see, if I think that everything is the projection, so then we can change myself and we can overcome the problem. Every aspect of human life is to be regarded as a department of the self. The development of an integral life is not possible if there exist divisions and the discrimination in these departments of the self. It is therefore necessary to identify those areas of life where self-alienation takes place and to find how it can be eliminated. And if we can eliminate this self-alienation, we will be one-pointed and we can get the success in life. So to summarize it, why don't we get success in life, whether in our worldly life, in our spiritual life, or where there is a conflict between secular and spiritual life? It is because we are not one-pointed. Sri Krishna has already mentioned perseverance and aspiration. And this perseverance and aspiration, Swamiji is one point in one place he said, I shall drink the ocean, says the persevering man. I can crumble the mountain, says the willful man. Be perseverance and willful, and you can get everything. So, perseverance and aspiration gives the one-pointedness. Sri Krishna says, how? What is the problem? Why perseverance and aspiration not come? It is because we are alienated. How can we overcome the alienation? First, ego awakening. We must be aware of the function of things, and then we will connect with the world. First, ego awakening, and then we shall connect with the world. How we can connect? To look this world. This is the source, and we are connected with that. Everything is our self-projection. So it is all, work is our self-creativity. See, if there is any problem in the work, then we have to change, because it is the creativity from ourselves. To whom I love, it is my self-image. So if there is any problem in love, I would consider that there is some problem in my self-image. So in this way, we would try to manage ourselves and get the success, to become one-pointed, become perseverance, willful, and a great aspirant to get the success. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkham Apnuvat, Sarvastarotu Durgani, Sarvo Bhadrani Pashyatu, Sarva Sadbuddhim Apnotu, Sarva Sarvatra Nandatu, Durjana Sajjano Bhuyat, Sajjana Shantim Apnuat, Shantam Uchchete Bandhebhyo, Muktas Janyan Vimochayet. May all be happy. May all enjoy good health. May all see happy events. May all be freed from miseries. May all be freed from dangers. May all realize what is good. May all actuated by noble thoughts. May all rejoice everywhere. May the wicked become virtuous. May the virtuous attain tranquility. May the tranquil be free from bondages. May the freed make others free. May the Supreme Spirit, the presiding deity of all sacred activities, be satisfied. For He being pleased, the whole universe feels satisfied. Peace, peace, peace be unto you all. Next Sunday, we don't have any Sunday lecture in the morning. Next Sunday is the 7th February, and at 3 p.m. we will have Swami Vivekananda's birth anniversary celebration, a special worship at 3 p.m. 3 p.m. we have a special worship of Swami Vivekananda, and you can watch it online. Because of this pandemic, everything is online, so you can watch it online from 3 p.m. onwards next Sunday, 7th February at 3 p.m. in this hall. You can watch it in the live streaming. Thank you. Take care to stay safe. Namaste.